when you're scrolling on LinkedIn, right, you might not see the about section when you're looking at a long list.
Yeah.
But you will see that headline.
Sure.
And so you can stand out with that headline.
David, how are you, man?
Adam, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome.
We have our director of recruiting, Simon Wilkins, on the pod.
Simon, welcome to the podcast, man.
Good to be here.
Glad to have you for the first time.
Yeah.
Hopefully not the last time. We'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
That's right. That's right. Well, awesome to have you on the show with us today. This is the RevOps Recruiters Podcast, and our mission in this is to provide insights and best practices around finding, hiring, and retaining top revenue operations talent.
Awesome. We're your hosts, Adam and David from RevSearch.
That's us. And
Plus Simon today.
We got Simon today. Yeah. So, David, what are we going to jump into?
Yeah, today we're going to talk about what RevOps leaders can do to optimize their LinkedIn profile.
Okay. Yeah, I think this, and Simon, this is really why we wanted to have you on this one, because you've probably looked at more LinkedIn profiles than anybody I know personally.
Right.
That's what you've done for much of your career is recruiting and looking at profiles. So I'm interested to hear all the stories of what you've seen as you've perused through LinkedIn over the years. But before we even jump into that, tell me, David, why does it even matter? Why should a candidate care about keeping their LinkedIn profile up to date?
It's really opportunity. It's SEO, it's visibility, first impressions. Nowadays, when people look at you, when people are looking for candidates, that's where we go.
Yeah.
Right. That's your first look. When you're on the candidate market, that's what people are going to see. And you want that first impression to be solid. You want somebody to be able to see exactly what you bring to the table, who you are as a leader. And so it's visibility, it's opportunity.
Yeah,
right?
That makes sense. So today, kind of the way we're going to break this conversation up, there are things that we've seen in a LinkedIn profile that we would say these are must-haves. These are the things that people are using all day, every day to find quality candidates. And then there's others that are nice to have. So we'll focus on the must-haves first, and then we'll talk about some of the nice-haves. So when we think about must-haves, David, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, must-haves. When we look at the LinkedIn profile, first thing that pops up when you open that LinkedIn profile is the intro section. And the first thing we see is the headshot or profile picture.
Yeah, right? It's right there front and center. Right. And, Simon, you've scrolled through lists of probably hundreds or thousands of those. When you see no profile picture at all, what goes on in your mind as a recruiter?
Yeah, it does raise a few red flags. If you don't have a profile picture, I'm thinking you're not keeping up to date with LinkedIn at all. You probably haven't visited it for a few years, so you're probably not an active user.
Right. So unfortunately, even if that's not true, that's kind of the assumption that happens when that's there. So, our encouragement would definitely put something on there. So David, if I'm thinking about, hey, I need to grab a photo for LinkedIn and I'm scrolling through my phone and I've got this great shot of me hanging out with all my buddies on the beach. Like, did I use that picture? What would you say to me if I'm trying to figure out a photo?
Probably not the best picture.
Yeah.
I would say, professional looking photo. That doesn't mean, you have to wear a suit.
Yep.
You can have casual attire, but it needs to be clean. It needs to be well taken. You can do that with your iPhone, right?
Yeah.
Not a crop picture, but something, it could even be a selfie with the right lighting, right angle. It can look really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So profile pic, what's next? What's the next thing that we see in that intro section?
Yeah. Above the profile, we see that banner.
Yeah.
The background photo. And this is where we really want to say, don't go too personal, hanging out with your friends somewhere at the beach again.
Yeah.
You could do a personal brand there. If you're doing some services or consulting on the side, you could do
Sure.
personal brand, kind of like a, with some information, some contact info, or company branding, right?
Yeah.
Where are you working today? What is that company brand, that logo?
Sure.
And then we have some other ideas too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen folks just do just a nice background image, a landscape of some sort. And the main thing I think is we don't want it to detract, to distract, to somehow take away. And so just have something clean and nice there. Again, what do you think if it's completely blank? What are your thoughts?
I mean, the same kind of thing. You haven't put enough effort into your profile. But a cityscape, anything that's nice on the eye.
Yeah.
That's what you need.
Exactly.
I think that's great. So then we go down into the next section right below that. I've got my name listed, and then there's that headline section. So talk me through what I should have there.
Yeah, so that's where most candidates and this is not going to win you your job, but it's insight into who you are as a person and what you do, who you are, what's important to you. So it's that headline right under your name, where most people put their title and company. nowadays we're starting to see more candidates actually list some of those keywords,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So it's a differentiator.
Yeah.
I think it's
For sure. And I've seen people put things that are a little bit personally. So they may say like husband, father, RevOps leader, loves technology and data, right? It's 8 or 10 words that lets me see, okay, this person cares about relationships, but they also care about the work they do.
Yeah.
And it gives me just a little glimpse into who they are.
And it's visibility when you're scrolling on LinkedIn, right? You might not see the about section when you're looking at a long list.
Yeah.
But you will see that headline.
Sure.
And so you can stand out with that headline.
Yeah, for sure. So then just below that is the about section. And Simon, I know this is a section that you utilize a lot. So David, real quick, walk us through kind of what you see in the about section. And then Simon, I'll have you add some color to that.
Yeah, this is really the introduction to who you are as a person, as a professional. So what we want to say here is 2 to 3 paragraphs or lists capturing your story, some of your skills, and really the value you bring to the table, and it has to be very tailored. And so, using data to show impact, key projects that would resonate with, a potential recruiter or hiring manager looking at your profile, right? If you've helped scale up a company, talk about some of that growth journey. Talk a little bit about that growth journey, right? Revenue ranges, size of companies, right? And relevant keywords. And this is the key. This is the crux here. Is well-placed keywords.
Yeah. I mean, Simon, you expand out these areas, right? And you're looking through there. What do you like are you concerned if something's too short or too long? Or how do you use this section to really identify if a candidate might be a good fit?
I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's too short or too long, as long as it's got the right information in there.
Yeah.
And really what you should be, it's good to have a bit of a personal touch in there, but you want to champion your RevOps experience and not your hobbies, right? I mean, you can explain a little bit about yourself and what you like doing, but you really got to, as David says, talk about projects you've worked on and maybe the teams you've led, what kind of tech stack you're working with. Those kind of things are really relevant.
Yeah, and even be specific in some of those, right? If you've worked on a specific piece of technology, list that there, because sometimes we're looking for that. For example, we've had companies come to us and say, we would like someone who has experience with Salesforce CPQ. If you have that listed there, we can see that. That's helpful versus just saying something that is a description of what Salesforce CPQ does, but it doesn't actually say the word Salesforce CPQ.
Yeah.
Right.
And as RevOps leaders, we know the term ICP, right? Ideal customer profile. And we do a lot of work around that. And so you need to think about that this way. What you're writing here, you're developing your own ICP of, the types of companies and types of opportunities that you're interested in.
Right.
So if you're in a certain industry, if you're looking to target only B2B companies within SaaS, for example, right? If there's a certain type of organization or product that you're interested in, this is an opportunity to start to shape and align with that ICP for your own professional journey.
Yeah,
for your own job
I love
hunt.
it. That's great. That's great. So let's move on as I go kind of further down the page in my LinkedIn profile. Next section that's really a must-have, David. What's that next section?
Yeah, that's the experience section where you have your jobs, your timeline, right? The roles you've been in, companies you've been at, and this is an interesting one because there's a lot of times we see boilerplate, right? Under each job. And what we want to say here is don't just boilerplate it. Don't just take a job description, copy the requirements and put them in there.
Sure.
This is more like a highlight reel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And so, Simon, when you're looking through those, a couple of questions that come to mind, what do you think, like, let's say, should I list all of my jobs and have a complete timeline, or is it okay if I have gaps in my career? What are your thoughts on that? Should I list everything I've done title-wise in my experience?
I think you should. I think you should have every job that you've ever done.
Yeah.
Even if you've had multiple job titles at one company, put those in there.
Show that progression.
Put those dates in there. And
Okay.
that exactly that shows progression. It shows you're going up the ladder and to get to where you are today. So that's really important.
Yeah. No, I think I agree 100% that if I see gaps, I know if I'm looking at a profile and I see gaps, I kind of wonder, well, what happened during this time? So even if you were doing independent consulting, put that in there so that we know that that's what was going on, right? And then I love what you say, a highlight reel, right? Yeah. So out of each each role that you've had, list 2, 3, 4 successes that you've had, and then again, be specific. List details about that so we can see those. They may be even redundant to what's in the about section, and that's okay. List those in that experience section so we can see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Specific enough, but also to show scope, right? So it's that balance of going too granular and staying big picture, showing impact, but still listing enough to support how you got this outcome, right? This success.
Yeah.
That's critical.
And I think, I've seen some that are really, really long. And I think I liked your answer before. There's nothing about it being too long if you've done a lot of things. List those things. Yeah. We don't want fluff, but we do want, if you've accomplished a lot in your career, show us that. That's going to matter. And that might help us say, hey, this is the right person for a particular role.
Right. And I think some of those, but it could just be 3 bullet points. It could be, led a team of 5 people. It could be migrated one CRM to another. It could be, it's just an achievement, what you've done, right?
Yep. Yeah. No, I think that's great. Yep. So after the experience section, there's another kind of must-have section for us. David, what's that next section below there?
Yeah, we've kind of grouped it into skills, education, certifications, and this is a really, really great place. Another place for keywords, right? Your entire profile, I think the bottom line is your entire profile is full of keywords. So think about those. Be intentional about those keywords.
Sure.
They need to. Those are the trigger words that bring you up, that give you that visibility in searches, that bring you to the top of lists, right? And so keywords is the first thing we want to start with here. Skills. What are, again, the same stuff you can list in the about section, listed in the skills section, and you'll have the ability to be endorsed on those skills.
Yeah.
I think about technology, tech stack, right? Industry, the types of CRMs you've worked with.
Sure.
The different disciplines within the entire funnel, from marketing ops to sales ops to CS ops. There's key terms. Think about those strategic terms you can place in your skills section.
Yeah, I think the main thing here: be specific, be specific, be specific.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
What about education?
Yeah, I mean, if you worked hard for it, list it.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
Sometimes we have clients that would like to see an MBA, right, in a more strategic role. They value education more. I think we're seeing a lot of change in today's market, right, where it's mostly about experience. But if you worked hard to get that degree, list it.
Yeah. We're not saying you won't be able to get a job if you don't have the degree. We see it happen all the time. But if you've got it and you've worked for that, by all means, highlight that. If nothing else, it shows accomplishment. It shows, hey, you put in the work to get that 4-year degree or to get that MBA or to get whatever it is. So certainly list that. What about from a certification standpoint? Simon, when you think about, when we have a requirement that says we're looking for someone that knows Salesforce, certifications aren't necessarily required, but certainly if we see them, it's like, wow, this person has the ability to do this, right?
Yeah, I actually speak to quite a lot of people that are Salesforce certified, for instance, and it's not listed anywhere. And I have to get that information out on a telephone call. So it's definitely worth, again, if you've worked hard to get it, why not shout out?
Yeah.
Tell everyone.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, that's great. I love that. So, and what are some of the other certifications that might be useful?
Yeah, I mean, we think about revenue operations. We think about the entire funnel, a very, very lengthy, tech stack from top to bottom. So, we look at the marketing automation platforms you've worked with. We look at the sales tools you've worked with, the marketing tools, different tools that integrate into the CRM, project management, certifications, Scrum, Six Sigma, PMP. I'm thinking, there's some organizations that allow you to get certifications around revenue leadership,
right?
Revenue architecture, right? There's lots of different ones. Put them on there. It helps. It really does.
I agree 100%. Yeah, that's great. Put those out there. Let us see these, and it helps us understand what you bring to the table.
Right.
So those are kind of the must-haves. Those are, in our opinion, kind of the bare minimum. If you are looking for a new opportunity and you hope that someone's going to find you, these are the things you've got to have, because they're going to allow us to find you. Yep. Then there's some other nice to haves. These are the things these are just, if you've got them, by all means do them, but they're not going to hold you back probably from an opportunity. So when we think about that, what are some of those nice to haves, David? Yeah,
and really the nice to haves, they really have to do with, they're not essential to searchability, to visibility, right? Yeah. So I think of endorsements. Endorsements are great because you have other professionals that are validating your experience. And to us, that just builds more trust and confidence in your ability to do set skill that you've listed.
Yeah.
Right. But it doesn't actually help you rank. It doesn't actually help you in the search. So first thing we want to talk about is endorsements, right? this is an opportunity for others to validate your skills.
Yeah. So am I thinking about just like my boss who I worked for before? Is that the only person that I should be getting endorsements from, or can I go deeper and wider than that?
Deeper and wider. I mean, there's lots of people you've worked with, coworkers, right? You know, if you're doing, I'm thinking of service providers on the side. If you do some consulting on the side, you know, get some of those clients to endorse your skill sets.
Yeah.
Those are great.
Yeah. Simon, how about you? When you're looking at a profile, do you kind of look through some of the endorsements? Do you see what's down there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I look from the whole profile top to bottom.
Yeah.
So if there's endorsements down there, sure, I'm going to read those endorsements.
Yeah, no, that's great. Recommendations, how's that different, or what are we talking about here when it says recommendations?
So endorsement is literally just a check, right, on your skill set.
Yeah.
Recommendations are actual written recommendations on your profile where you get insight into, you know, what people you may have worked with say about you, or people you've worked for say about you.
Got it. So tell us a little bit of the actual story. So not just
Yeah.
saying, yes, this skill that you listed, I endorse that you actually have that, but now I'm actually saying, here's a little blurb about my experience of working with this person.
Yeah, and it provides insight into, you know, what type of leader they are, right?
Yeah.
If it's someone on your team that wrote your recommendation, or it shows, okay, it gives us insight into leadership, right? EQ, how they've worked with others, and so it's nice because it kind of primes that initial conversation with a candidate.
Yeah, and I've noticed that it shows us both recommendations you've received and recommendations that you've given.
That's right.
And the people that tend to give more get more.
Right.
So if you're looking to bolster this area, consider sharing a story about somebody else that you've worked with and give them a recommendation. And you might find that more of those are coming your way as well.
Yep.
What are some of these other nice to have areas?
Yeah, interests, right? Things you're following, topics you're following on LinkedIn. I mean, you have to be strategic here,
Yeah.
right? I think about, I mean, my own approach there is, what do I really believe in? What do I care about,
Yeah.
right? And don't just like everything, right? This is an opportunity to show who you are as a person and the things you care about.
Yeah.
So,
No, I love that. I love that.
yeah.
And then finally, the last section here is the activity or the posting of content. Again, Simon, I don't think we would say, hey, I'm not going to consider somebody because they don't have a lot of LinkedIn posts. There's lots of people that are on LinkedIn that don't do that. But what do we, if I see someone that's got more activity there, it kind of shows, hey, this person's engaged, right? What do you think when you see somebody that's got a little bit more activity on their?
Yeah, well, it means to me that they're going to be active, and I'm going to be able to have conversation with them back and forth.
Yeah.
That they'll be on top of it.
Yeah, so it shows that they're interested, they're engaged. You're probably got a high probability that they're going to reach back out to you when you reach out to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say, David, from that standpoint on just posts and activity?
it's not the key to getting that opportunity, that job opportunity. You know, I mean, for us, we're gonna reach out to you mainly based on, again, the bottom line is good keywords. You've communicated your experience on your profile, and it's about visibility, searchability. So that's really more of why someone were to reach out to you.
Those top must-haves that we talked about. Yeah.
I think it shows if you're posting content and contributing, you are giving back to the revenue operations community, right?
Yeah.
So that's a nice to have. That's a great thing to do.
Yeah.
If you're posting 5 times a day, I don't know if that's ideal.
Noise, pause post from this
Exactly.
person. Yeah, exactly. There's a good balance, but certainly, again, not a have to have, but it's a nice to have for sure.
Right.
Well, guys, man, this has been a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I think that hopefully folks can take away from this and go back and look at your LinkedIn profile and say, okay, is there anything I can do to make this thing a little bit better?
Yeah.
Last question I'd ask you, how often, Simon, I'm going to ask you this. How often should I be updating my LinkedIn profile? Is this like once every 10 years when I'm looking for a new job? Is it every day? Like, how often should I just be looking at my LinkedIn profile and saying, hey, is everything up to date here?
I mean, maybe a weekly thing, but certainly, if you're changing jobs or you're doing some kind of courses, you need to keep that up to date.
Yeah.
As and when those things change.
Yeah, I think that's for sure. Just keep it up to date. Spend a few minutes with it every week to 2 weeks, and I think you'll have everything accurate in there that we need when we're looking for good, talented folks out there.
But I think the other thing is to mention, obviously, on your LinkedIn, you get messages, right? And if you check your LinkedIn once a month, you're going to have potentially great opportunities that you might have missed. And that happens quite a lot. People come back to me and say, oh, I missed this message that you sent 2 months ago. So it's just good to get in the habit of checking it once once a week at
Yeah,
least.
yeah, that makes sense. Cool. David, man, enjoyed the conversation. Simon,
Same.
thanks so much. You did awesome.
you,
You
Simon.
did great. You got to come back sometime. All right.
I might do.
Okay. Awesome. Well, guys, thanks so much for tuning in and listening. Again, RevOps Recruiters Podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube has the video version. We hope you'll check it out and join us again next week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.